Chapter 2. A day later, Mercy startled awake to the sound of splintering wood. She rubbed the sleep from her eyes. How long had she been asleep? A deep peace stiffened her limbs like she'd been kept under a spell. She'd only felt that once before, the day she was told her parents died in a carriage accident. Rosy light replaced the menacing shadows at her windows. Her heart rose in praise to the sound of bird chirps. She would miss them when winter cloistered her into the house all day. She shrugged to ease the stiffness from her shoulders. The chopping sounded awfully close. The smell of the man burst through her thoughts. Mercy shivered as she moved to the window. A young man she hadn't seen before placed a log on the ground before him and brought the maul down. The log splintered. He picked up one of the larger pieces and did it again. She shoved the ball down the barrel with a ramrod. Trembling fingers shook just enough gunpowder into the pan. The musket was lighter than she remembered, but then she'd been only a girl when her father taught her to use his firelock. "What do you think you're doing?" She leveled her father's musket at the man. The maul thudded to the dirt. He raised his hands. "Looked like you could use some wood." "What has that got to do with ye?" He shrugged. "I won't harm you." It was the man who'd followed her home. "What is your reason for being here?" "I followed to make sure no more harm came to you." "Why are ye still here?" He swiped an odd hat from his head and cast his gaze to the ground. The man's hair glowed red in the early morning sun. Thin and lean, he had more strength than a quick glance might indicate. She'd seen him swing the maul with ease. He'd not broken a sweat. When he looked up, she was caught in the amber of his eyes. A knot came loose in her stomach. Surely the man who followed her home to keep her safe wouldn't attack her here in broad daylight. She kept the barrel steady. "I was worried about you, especially when you didn't come out yesterday." She'd lost a day? It shouldn't come as a surprise. She'd done the same thing when Dr. Morris brought the news about her parents' death. "I can see to my own wood." "I need some food." She rested the musket across her body in the crook of her arm. "Stay here." He took a step back, hands at his sides. Mercy closed the door securely behind her and threw the lock. "Lord, what do I do?" She rested the gun by the door. She gathered the meal she'd no stomach to eat the night before. He did follow her home after that. Her mind blank. Lord, she didn't know what to call it. Never mind. This man had been kind when she needed it. She could feed him. Her hand shook as she undid the lock and stepped back outside. The plate burdened with half a crusty loaf of bread and thick slices of ham would surely tip if she used only one hand. She left her musket on the porch and stepped toward him. He took the plate, careful not to touch her fingers. "Thank you." "You're welcome." Kindness in his eyes held her there for a long minute. He pulled away first with a smile that lightened her worry. Mercy backed toward the porch, not taking her eyes off him. Once she reached the landing, she picked up the musket and rested it across her body. He gestured his thanks again with the plate and sat where he stood, cross-legged on the ground. Soon his cheeks bulged with bread, his eyes twinkled with gratitude. "You will need something to drink." She left the musket on the porch when she slipped into the house to retrieve her pitcher and a glass. He drank long from the glass, nearly emptying the water. He held it up and she filled it again. "Thank you." "Where are you from?" Confusion and maybe a little panic shifted into his countenance. Mercy's stomach clenched. She took a step back. "It's complicated." "Sir, where one is from is one of the politest questions to ask strangers precisely because it is so easy to answer." He swallowed a large bite of ham. "You wouldn't understand." Anger heated her step toward him. So you assume I'm a simpleton unable to comprehend place names, such as Gloucester or maybe Norfolk? He stood so quickly he nearly upset his plate. I meant no such thing. The sharp sparkle in her hazel green eyes took his breath. She was magnificent. The incident the night before last was clearly responsible for the shadow of the musket. Good. Maybe she'd be more careful to bring it with her from now on. In truth, the breakfast she'd given him was uncommonly good. Desperation dissipated as he filled his belly. Now he needed some basic information, and she could give it to him, but he'd have to tread a little more carefully. And do it all without telling a lie. I apologize, ma'am. I meant no disrespect. A regal nod and folded arms were all the response he got. I come from a place far away that you probably haven't heard of. She raised one eyebrow. You won't believe me. You'd be surprised to know what I believe. I have good reason to keep it to myself. You can be leaving now. She swiped her barrel toward the gate. Garrett inhaled deeply. Where would he go? He couldn't let Max see him, if Max was here. He didn't see a way around telling her the truth, but she'd never believe him. He should probably just leave. He gave a short bow and put his hat back on his head. Thank you for the food. What kind of shoes are those? I've never seen their like. Running shoes. He glanced around at the world she lived in. People stirred. Across the fence, a woman bustled to a dependent building. On the other side, another woman made her way to an outbuilding. A little boy ran from the first house. Good morning, Miss Mercy, he hollered. Mercy waved. A smile softened her wary features. Is there somewhere we can talk? We're doing fine right here. A little more private? Fear flashed. I have no need of being private with strangers. Mercy, I'm so glad I caught you before the day took hold. A breathless woman with the same coloring as the young boy approached the fence. She adjusted the baby cradled on her shoulder. Can you spare an egg's worth of butter? I'll get it back to you as soon as the shop's open. She stopped when she spied Garrett. And who might you be? She took in Mercy's musket. Shall I send William? No, Mary, I won't be needing William. I have the butter. She rested the musket next to the fence. The look she gave him told him to keep his mouth shut before she slipped into a small building next to the kitchen. She handed a small cloth-covered mound to Mary. William will be home all day, Mary told Mercy, never taking his eyes off him. Thank you, Mary. Once Mary retreated, Mercy raised her chin and gestured to a bench near the back door in full view of any one of her neighbors. We can sit there. Garrett sat. Mercy leaned against the door, musket back across her chest. I'm not sure where to begin. She cocked her head to one side, eyes glancing across the fence to Mary's. He took a deep breath. I guess I'd better come right out with it. She raised an eyebrow. My name is Garrett Tyler. I come from here, Yorktown of the future. Mercy straightened and raised an eyebrow. And just what future is that? 250 years from now. She continued to eye him as he explained what happened. So Max Ballard knows of this? You've seen him, have you? No, not in this time. I knew him in my time. We should talk to him. She stepped to the right. No, he'd never believe me either. She paced the narrow dirt path that led to her dependencies. Garrett waited while she processed. After a fifth turn, she sat on the opposite end of the bench. I believe ye. Are you trying to placate me until you can get William to carry me out of here? She laughed, a bubbling, joyful sound that touched his heart. No. Then why? You won't believe me. He couldn't help grinning. Try me. Last year, shortly after my parents died, there was a big storm. Boats were tossed about like babies' toys. A local fisherman and his boat were caught just out there, She pointed to the river. I did the only thing I could do. Pray. Just when I thought he'd been caught forever by the waves, I saw an angel grab the boat at the bow line and tow it to the shore. Did anyone else see the angel? No, the man was rowing. He knew it got easier, but he never saw the angel who helped. Only one man walks on water. I, she agreed. We call these running shoes. I am called Mercy Hansford. A fine old Puritan name. She gave him another smile then. A man would do a lot for a regular diet of those smiles. I have always been glad my parents restrained their creativity. Is Mercy an old family name? No, I was named Mercy for God's blessing of mercy in their lives. They'd been married many years before I came along. My mother was assumed barren. She grinned. I've always been glad their exuberance did not result in me being called Saved by the Blood. Merriment twinkled in her clear hazel eyes. Clearly a mercy. She rolled her eyes at the pun. Are you kin to the Macon Tylers of Gloucester? Garrett drew a blank. He reached for his phone to text his mother. She knew all that stuff. He stopped when his fingertips hit the gold rectangle. I don't know. I'm afraid I tuned out any time my mother brought up the subject. Tuned? I didn't pay attention. Pretty dull stuff. Who married who? Don't you care about where you came from? Who your family is? I do now. What will you do? I'm not sure. When is it? Confusion clouded her eyes. I mean, what year is it? What month? September the 1st in the year of our Lord 1769. The same year Max Ballard disappeared. Lights ticked on in remote recesses of his brain. Max was cursed on Christmas Eve, 1769. Garrett traveled to 1769 on Christmas Eve as Max was coming forward to Olivia in the 21st century. Tingles rushing over his body made him feel like he could walk on the wind. He could make it home if God would answer his prayer. He would wait until Christmas Eve and make sure that he was at Max Ballard's conservatory. When Max traveled forward to Olivia, Garrett would tag along. It'll take a while to get to Christmas Eve, but he might as well make the best of it. After all, who gets to visit the past on vacation? Why are you grinning? Because if God will allow it, I can go home. What will you do until then? I'll need to find work. She glanced at his hands. What kind of work have you been doing? I work with computers. Her face blinked. I'll tell you all about it sometime. If he could find a safe place to charge his phone. There was plenty of sun, but he didn't want to get hung as a witch. I can do all kinds of physical labor. The wood is acceptable. She placed a finger to her lips. Lips that if he looked any longer, his prayers would be hindered. You must stay here. I was hoping you'd say that. Do you have a spare room I can use? You cannot stay in the house. You may stay in a room above the kitchen.